And welcome back to the Northland Sports Page, hour number 2. Brian Prudhomme, Dave Cook, Topher Davis. If you haven't checked out hour number 1 yet, do that. If you haven't liked or subscribed yet, do both. Happy fishing opener again to everybody. Again, Minnesota and open. I hope that becomes more synonymous with one another. I really hope it applies to hair salons pretty soon. It would do me a big favor. But guys, the NFL tried to at least give us a prelude to their open. They started to schedule things.
Yeah, I agree with the barber thing though, Brian. Yikes. I mean, I need a little bit of work.
Yeah, you don't need a haircut. You need both of them cut without question.
So is the schedule release for every year but this year, the schedule releases seem kind of dumb to me. It's like, why is this a national holiday? But you know what? This year it kind of felt that way.
I don't know. I guess I'm too much of a football rube that I've gotten into it every year. I think I overextended getting into it this year because I needed something, because that's been the theme. I don't care about the NFL draft to the level that you do, but I cared close to your level this year because I needed to. So everything's different. We talked about in hour 1. I watched Korean baseball at 4 a.m. because I needed something. Expectations are changing because of this.
Oh, truly. 100% true. Like I said, I don't think I've spent more than 10 minutes on an NFL schedule before this year, but this year it was like, all right, I got to see what they're doing.
Well, and I got to do this for Topher's benefit. I used to get into it for season ticket brag because I used to think about, okay, how am I planning my fall and winter? Who's going with me? And what weeks are we doing what? Now I look at it, and it's basically for what we're going to do here. I look at it and I try to predict the record, and I'm usually off. Kudos to Dave Cook. He nailed 10-6 this time last year for the Vikings. Spoiler alert, that's what I've got for him this year, at least when I first looked at it. We'll see when we analyze together what I come up with. But what about you, Toph? You're not as big of a Sunday football guy as you are a Saturday football guy. Schedule release do anything for you?
I'll be honest with you. It's one of those things I've always thought was the way the NFL builds it up into a holiday, like, we got special shows, do they release the schedules, especially when the way the NFL schedules, everybody knew all the opponents anyway. It's not like we were going to find out that, we're going to play Tom Brady this year. That's going to be cool. We knew that already before. It's just going to be of when it's happening and things like that. So the way they build it up it's interesting from a marketing standpoint, just because it's like, wow, they're really getting people to buy into all this stuff and get excited. And they do the leaks throughout the day, like, they're going to play the Saints on Christmas Day. That this source just told me that. It's just like, all right, I don't think it needs to be as big of a deal. Release the schedules. It's kind of my thought a little bit, I guess. But hey, if it gets people excited, it's something to excited. People are fired up for it. More power to them. Have fun with it.
Right. Well, and one of the things that bummed me out is time of year. I used to get into it, but it used to give me something to flip to when a baseball game was on a commercial this time of year. Now I didn't have that either. But Topher hit a couple things that bug me. Number 1 would be the leaks, because I knew half of it. Yes, we know the opponents because they're determined months in advance, but we knew part of what week we were playing who, because all you had to do was be on social media at some point during the day and it was going to get to you. So the suspense was kind of ruined that way. The other thing I don't like is, as it's become more of a production for ESPN, they're actually doing less. They used to reveal team by team, division by division, and it was like the NCAA selection show. You had to wait for your favorite team to pop up. So there was some suspense. They never went through the Vikings game by game this year or the year before or the year after like they used to. The only team they went through game by game, P.S., Tampa Bay again. I'm already tired of that. And I love Tom Brady. I'll just preface it again, but it's bugging me. So all they did was talk about the Bucs week by week and then talk about the primetime game schedule. They didn't focus necessarily on anybody's individual schedule week to week other than the Buccaneers, and they used to do it basically giving every team their time in the spotlight. So if you're going to do a schedule release show, do it league-wide. If you're not a Cowboys fan, a Bucs fan, or a Niners fan, or a New York market fan, or even the Patriots without a quarterback, you didn't care this year.
That's kind of how it always seems to be from a national media point. You just nailed all the teams that seem to matter from a national media point. That's the part I just don't get. If what you said, Brian, if they went through other divisions, well, if they went through the NFC Northwest, you knew exactly where you were going to play anyway, because they went through everybody else's division. The only thing you wondered is when you were going to play your in division guys. I just think it's silly. I mean, the only selection show that I find any value in at all, or the only schedule show, is the selection show for the NCAA tournament, because you don't know. And so since you have an idea, I understand if you're a season ticket holder. That I get. But for the rest of us, play the games.
Well, the other thing too is, Topher, how about the leaks that were wrong? Because there were leaks earlier in the day that, because of COVID per se, it was going to be NFC versus AFC for the first 4 weeks of the year, and it was, well, the Vikings are going to open with the Colts and then have the Titans and then have the Texans, etc. And then an hour later it was, oh my goodness, the Vikings are playing the Packers on week 1. Obviously, we know which one turned out to be correct, but are we too, again, this is opening up a different Pandora's box of journalism, but is there too much pressure to be first with something? You can be wrong, but you were first.
No, there's way too much pressure, I think, to be first and to make sure you get credit for being the first person with a special leak, where sometimes guys will go with something before that's actually, fully sourced out and have full information, where, before the whole social media world, if you're trying to get something ready for the next day's newspaper, you can actually flesh out your sources and make sure that you actually have something that's worth going on before you just hear it from this guy whose cousin works in the equipment room for the New England Patriots and heard this, and goes with it and sends out a quick tweet because you want to be first with this scoop, and then ends up being wrong.
All right, so I'm looking forward to this because in about 15 minutes, we're going to have Mike DuFrane join us, coach at CSS, but also an avid Packer fan. And that might be a first, that we've had an avid Packer fan allowed on this show to discuss football. We've had Joe Wicklund on. He's a big Packer fan. We've had Packer fans on the show, usually to talk about something else. Mike DuFrane is going to give Packer predictions. Dave, I'm excited to see if he actually gives them a loss, because Packer fans have trouble admitting they've lost games that have already been played, much less predicting future losses. But we're obviously going to do our Vikes predictions first.
It'll be interesting to see if he gives the Packers a loss on the one I feel strongest the Vikings are going to win, and that's Week 8.
At Lambeau. Wow. So
Vikes
this will
coming
go
off a bye.
That's true. That is true. There is help there. All right, but before we go to Week 8 versus Green Bay in Green Bay, it's the best place to start is Week 1. Green Bay at the bank. Sounds good. Didn't go well last year. What if there aren't any fans? I don't know if a young secondary against Aaron Rodgers to start things is a very good idea. What do you guys got in Week 1?
Yeah, Brian, you made my point right there at the end. A fired up Aaron Rodgers against the secondary that last year played in the Big 12. Yeah, I'm afraid that game, the first game, might get ugly. It's a loss.
Yeah, I fortunately have the same feelings, I think, about that first Green Bay game, especially if there's no fans allowed in the building. Obviously, there's so many question marks, right? We hope that by September 13th, things will be closer to normal and we can get things rolling. But U.S. Bank Stadiums can be a difficult place to play when that crowd's rocking. But when it's just an empty building, it's like a practice facility for Aaron Rodgers just to go out and to
right.
cut up a
Let's
defense.
just play at a DCO. So, we got the best practice facility in the league. Let's play there instead if there are no fans.
Exactly.
I agree with both assessments. I hate to say it, but it's an opening week loss at home, and that burns me. But if there are fans, maybe it's a win. Maybe Daniel Carlson shows up and they find a tie again. Fans make the difference to me.
I think in football you're right, and I think in Minnesota you're probably more right than any other place. Oakland's not a thing anymore, so the black hole is gone. So the skull chant's about as intimidating as it gets, and with no skull chant, I don't know, the place is going to be crickets.
Well, the other piece to the equation is, Topher, you can't see him, but he is skull chanting as we do this. The other piece is, let's say fans are allowed. It's going to probably be the first sporting event that fans have been allowed into, so everybody's going to want to go. It's not like Green Bay fans don't travel well. Fans don't necessarily equate to a home field advantage for the Vikes in that game. Could be a split building if there are fans there.
Yeah, it's always like that, isn't it? How about, will the skull chant sound quite as good if it's muffled with masks?
I think the mask would be an interesting part, but I also think that if it is one of the first sporting events that people are allowed into, they're going to be fired up and loud for both sides. If there is Packers fans there as well, and there probably would be a decent contingency, but yeah, if there's fans are wearing masks, they're going to be muffled a little bit, but they're going to be moving those masks to try to partake in some beverages as well, I think, is what getting things going.
Now he's speaking my language. I miss Saturdays at the Pint, by the way, too. Week 2 at the Colts. You guys threw hate on Phillip Rivers in hour number 1. I can't disagree. It's a road game, but it's not necessarily a difficult place to play. It's not a mobile quarterback who's been a turnover machine against him before. T.Y. Hilton's tough, but I got him at 1-1.
Yeah, I agree with you. I got him 1-1 as well, for the same reason. If you got a young secondary that's really starting to cut their teeth, right? And you've got an offense whose wide receivers are T.Y. Hilton, a rookie, and nobody else. And one strength your cornerbacks have is quickness to match T.J. Hilton. I think the Vikings might win this one.
I got the Vikings winning this game as well. I think traveling to Indy, Phillip Rivers, like I said earlier, I don't think he's the answer. If you missed hour one, Phillip Rivers is still garbage. And so I don't think that's going to happen. And if there's no fans yet in the crowd there, then what's the difference between playing at US Bank Stadium compared to the whatever, I don't remember what it's called now, Lucas Oil Stadium.
Right.
If there's similar type,
it's a
indoor
very
AstroTurf buildings, I think we see Delvin Cook go for over 200 in that game.
I want to see how many weeks that Topher predicts that as the afterthought to the game. Week 3 versus the Titans. Derrick Henry's tough, no question. I'm not sold on the rest of that team. Better? Sure. Good. Those are one of those teams that's like, yeah, they made the playoffs, but somebody had to out of that group. Tennessee's going to be good within that division. That doesn't tell me a lot. 2-1.
2-1.
They're not going 0-2 at home to start the year.
Yeah, no, I'm going 2-1 as well because, I mean, who scares you on the Texas or on the Titans offense? Derrick Henry and so if we go with the idea that the weak point of our defense is the secondary because they're young, I mean, another team that doesn't throw all that well, I'll take it. The rest of our team's pretty good. I'll take the win.
Yeah, the Vikings D-line and linebackers especially will be keying in on Derrick Henry all week because he obviously is the Tennessee Titans, and I think they'll be able to slow him down just enough to give Kirk Cousins and the Vikings offense enough time to put up enough points on the board to come away with the victory. I got the Vikings at 2-1 after 3 weeks.
How many yards for Delvin? I think that has to be your afterthought no matter what.
Tennessee?
We have to do the math.
189.
All right, so hopefully that means, wow. Hopefully that means Delvin is going to win the duel with Derrick Henry. But if Delvin's going for 200 and 189 on back-to-back weeks, either we're putting up 50 or Kirk Cousins is hurt and Mannion's under center, and that's why Delvin's doing that much.
Hey, if Mannion's under center, that takes all the wins off of this list.
Right. Week 4, it's kind of a weird coin flip because the Texans are a good football team. They got worse because they asked for next to nothing for Nuke, DeAndre Hopkins. But their quarterback is nothing short of Superman. Their defense, I think, is better than people think. But I can't get away from the consensus thought that organization as a whole doesn't know what they're doing. So I'm giving the Vikings a win on the road here. I could certainly be sold the other direction, but I'm going to go to 3-1.
I'm using the same arguments I've used so far. Nuke's gone. So William Fuller, you put your fastest guy on him. I just think our defense matches up so well with Houston that if Kirk can get anything going, it should be a win. I've got him 3-1, and I'm dumbfounded that I have him 3-1.
Yeah, this is going to be a difficult game. I think it's a game. It wouldn't surprise me if the Texans came away with the victory. Deshaun Watson's that good. I think he finds ways to win some games. But I do think that Zimmer's defense will find a way to slow them down just enough. And I can see, the Vikings come away with the victory in that game. I agree with you guys. I got them at 3-1 as well.
Week 5. Stop me if you've heard this one. Hey, the Vikings are going to Seattle. Happens almost annually, it seems. And so does losing in Seattle. Now, if the 12th man can't be there, it could be a little bit easier, obviously. But still 5 games into the season, I'm still leaning on a young secondary. Russell Wilson has just a bag of tricks for anybody. I want to see a win here, but I don't. 3-2.
Yeah, this is no fun, Brian. I'm with you on this. I think the difference in the offensive talent in Seattle is enough because it's so varied. We've talked about a team in Tennessee that just runs the football, right? We've talked about a team in Houston that we don't know what their wide receiver outlook is, and so that gives the weak points of our defense some leeway. Well, Seattle and Russ tend to take advantage of those things, and yeah, I don't like this matchup as well. We're 3-2.
It's another difficult matchup, and especially I feel bad for Kirk Cousins because it's going to add to his legacy of not being able to win primetime games, because that's a Sunday night game, I believe. And I think going there to Seattle is going to be difficult. If there's no fans, it helps the Vikings, but if there's full rockin' 12th man situation, the night game, all that primetime talk going into it is how, even just the discussions about how bad Kirk Cousins is not going to be helpful. So unfortunately, I think the Vikings come away with an L in that one.
All right. We need a little variety in this. I
Right,
don't know if we'll get it here. I don't know if we'll get it here or not. Week 6 at home versus Atlanta. This was the opener last season. For me, this is lather, rinse, repeat. Julio Jones is good. It's going to be probably the biggest wide receiver test for that group. Matt Ryan is pretty good. But the Vikings have made Matt Ryan look pretty pedestrian. This is at the bank. I think it continues 4-2.
Oh, finally. I think that Xavier Rhodes had some sort of magical spell over Julio Jones. I think that the Falcons are going to win going away. I have the Vikings at 3-3.
I think this one is going to be a difficult one. Zim was able to figure something out about Matt Ryan last week. Julio Jones against the young secondary is going to be obviously a big story in this one. But I think going into the bye week, the Vikings will be fired up, and I think that they're going to find a way, because this one's at home, to come away with a victory here. It's going to be a close game, but I think the Vikings will win this one.
All right, so Topher and I continue to be mirror images. I think there'll be some differences here. The bye in week 7, week 8, they go to Lambeau. I just don't see them winning even coming off a bye. But what I want to know, I wish Mike DuFrane was here already, because I want to know where Green Bay is at this point. Because their 4 games to start the season are very, very tough. If that's a 2-2 Packers team, that Aaron Rodgers chip could have become, Topher said, screw this team, I'm going to go out and go crazy. It could just become, screw this team, we're not very good. If that's the case, I like their chances. I don't think I've ever given the Vikings a win at Lambeau before the season started. I'm not about to start. Take the L.
I think this is the game where the Vikings finally, their defensive secondary finally grows up. They'll have gotten just swamped by Atlanta, and I think they're going to figure out that, Julio Jones doesn't wear green and white. And with an extra week to get ready for him, and we think Zim's the cornerback whisperer, I think the Vikings come out of the bye strong and win at Lambeau.
I think making the trip to Green Bay, playing on the natural grass surface in the 1st of November, I think it's going to be a little different for the Vikings offense. They're going to have a tough go of it against the Packers defense, I think, in that one. I think the Packers are going to win this game. Fortunately, I think they're going to end up going 2-0 against the Vikings in the first 8 weeks.
I do too, and I think that's going to be a huge difference with how the division plays out and how playoff seedings play out, because I do think the Vikings are going to make it. It doesn't look that way as I've got them at 4-3. I feel like week 9 is a lot like week 8 for me, in the sense that you just look at the team and where it is and you judge accordingly.
Yep.
They're not losing at home to Detroit. I just don't see it. They've done it at the bank twice in their history, but I just don't see it.
This game scares you a little bit because, Matt Patricia's coaching for his career. But this is such a toss-up game for me. I think just to keep the numbers fun, I'm going to take the L. I'm not sure I believe that. But Matt Stafford comes to play. The Vikings struggle a little bit. Kenny Galloway eats our young cornerbacks up, and it's going to be Detroit in a close game.
Topher, you're muted. There you go.
I think Detroit is going to, not be a big contest for the Vikes. I think the Vikes are going to be fired up after losing at Green Bay, get back home, and they're going to take care of Detroit in this game. I really do think the Vikings will win this one.
All right, so Topher and I are incapable so far of having different thoughts. At some point, it'll come. Again, week 10 is like 8 and 9. You look at the opponent, you look at the location, you go, well, I'm just going to let history speak for itself. This is at the Bears. This is in prime time. This is when it starts to get colder in Chicago. The Vikings fans make fun of Mitchell Trubisky as much as everybody else does. And I'm sort of part of it. But I always say, if this guy's so terrible, why do we keep losing to him? Now, I don't know if Trubisky will be the Bears quarterback even to start the year, much less in week 10. But the Vikings at Soldier Field never liked it. Kirk Cousins, primetime, hanging over his head. Still don't like it. Take the L. 5-4.
All right, so I'm trying to do this differently. I think that Mike Zimmer is going to be, like I said, embarrassed by Detroit the week before. I think the Vikings are going to come out with all guns firing. The nice thing, again, about Detroit or about the Bears is their quarterbacks are questionable. Their wide receivers aren't the greatest. So our weakest point is going to be, helped out by that. I think they're going to go to Chicago, break the string for the win.
This is a tough one because I was going to say pretty much everything Brian just said to start this one off, unfortunately. I don't like the Vikings playing on grass, especially at Soldier Field where they keep it a little longer. I think that hurts their offense. Primetime games with Kirk Cousins, obviously we've seen what he's done, but I don't know if that's necessarily a factor of him or the teams and the teams they've played against. But you get back to the Bears quarterback and their offensive struggles. Is it going to be Mitchell Trubisky, Nick Foles, Mitchell Foles? Who knows? It'll be interesting to see the way it all goes. But I think that Bears offense is going to be just bad enough the Vikings pull off a win in an ugly, ugly game in primetime that people will talk about how hideous of a game it was to watch. The Vikings get a victory here.
Now, the fact is, Topher doesn't believe any of that. The fact is he went third, and he wanted to differ from me for once. Week 11 versus the Cowboys. If this was in Dallas, I'd give them the L. But they shocked me last year by going there and winning. Dallas has a lot of good weapons, but they have a lot of turmoil. Is Andy Dalton versus Dak going to be an issue by then? It shouldn't, but is it going to be? Take the Vikings in a tight one. Stop the presses. The Vikings make a game-winning field goal. Dan Bailey against his former team.
I like that ending. This goes back to what I've been talking about the whole time. The Vikes' weaknesses are Dallas's strengths. They're going to put a little bit of a pass rush on us. That's not their great point, but our offensive line isn't all that good. And with CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper and the third wide receiver who was pretty good, and I can't remember his name. That doesn't. I just don't think it bodes well for us this year. I'm taking the L.
You know what? This is a tough one, I think, because obviously I think the Cowboys have done a lot offensively. Getting CeeDee Lamb in there is a huge, him working with Amari Cooper. Dak's going to be out to prove some things. And I think Mike McCarthy, is actually going to help their offense even more. I think he's going to unleash it a little bit, and I think the Cowboys are going to end up winning that game.
See, I go the other way. Mike McCarthy has helped the Vikings win at home many times as an opponent. I'm hoping that rings true. At home against Carolina. I didn't throw hate on Teddy. I said I wasn't sold on Teddy. I got to stick with that. Scared to death of McCaffrey, not scared of Teddy. He has a good game. Everybody loves him. But, oh, by the way, our team wins.
I think that if there are fans in the stands, this is going to be the most interesting one because I think there is still a ton of love for Teddy. I just think the Vikings are the better football team. I'm picking the Vikes here.
Yeah, I agree. I think having Teddy Bridgewater in the building would be a fun story. It'll be a lot of excitement. I think he might put a little extra pressure on himself going against Mike Zimmer and that defense. And I agree that I think the Vikings are a better overall football team. I think that they will come away with the win in that game.
Versus the Jaguars. This is not exactly in-depth analysis, and yes, time is of the essence too, but I do think the Jacksonville Jaguars are pretty close to the worst team in football. They are 2-3 years removed from having this ridiculously good defense and a play or two away from the Super Bowl. Now they've got a fun quarterback, a running back that they barely want to have on their team, and just not very good. It's at home. Fans or not, we win.
Yep. I don't need to give you anything more than that. We win.
Yeah, Saxonville's no more. Vikings get the victory over the Jacksonville Jaguars.
All right, so staying with Florida teams at Tampa Bay. I can't see that secondary staying with all those weapons.
Right.
If you give Tom Brady any time at all, it's on the road. I don't think the Bucs are going to be as fantastic and untouchable as the national media already proclaims, but we aren't going there to get a win. That's an L.
The question is going to be at this point what Arians and Brady have figured out to do with each other. Because the one thing the Vikings can do is cover tight ends. And so if it's Gronk or O.J. Howard who have become the mainstays for Tampa, I think the Vikings have a pretty good chance. I like the Vikings' chance to score in this game, but it's in Tampa. I have to take the loss and Tampa Bay wins that game.
Yeah, I think this will be an interesting one. Obviously, the Tom Brady factor is going to be pretty big, but I think, the Vikings secondary will start to get things built up a little bit, but that'll open up room for the Buccaneers' third receiver, and Tyler Johnson goes for 150 and 2 touchdowns. And unfortunately for the Vikings, Buccaneers get the victory in this one.
Well, what'll be more telling is the Vikes are in this game, and Antoine Winfield Jr. seals it with a pick six against Kirk Cousins. And we'll be talking about the safety that we didn't draft, and we'll be asking for Sean Mannion going into Week 15. Not the knowledgeable fans, but the Twidiots will be.
We're all wrong here if we're asking for Sean
No,
Mannion.
I know. I'm talking about the Twidiots, not the current company here. Week 15, at home to the Bears. For the love of God, can we beat Chicago in U.S. Bank Stadium? The last 2 years, they have not. They are the better football team. It's not the last week of the season for once. Just get the W already. Split with the Bears is what they normally do. It's what they should do.
I'm saying they're going 2-0 against the Bears. I think they win this one. They might win this one going away. If they're healthy, I still don't like Chicago's offense. We might actually run Chicago out of the building here.
I do think the Vikings being at home in this game is going to be huge. I think they get the victory here over the Bears. It'll be a big game, but it's nice to not have it be the last game of the regular season for the first time in a little while.
All right. At the Saints, it is not the playoffs. It is a couple of weeks, hopefully, before. If it was the playoffs, Vikes Saints, it would pain me to take the Vikings in a clutch situation, but I would take the Vikes. Week 16 might be a clutch situation. They're not going there and winning again. Or are they? Not for me. What do you got?
It's a Jameis Winston show at this point, and they beat the Vikings badly. I think the Vikings, after blowing out the Bears, are going to, blowing out the Bears, are going to be shining their buttons. Drew is 100. He's going to be dinged up. Jameis is going to come in and tear up that young secondary.
Wow. 2 shocking predictions that don't match. The Jameson show was one thing, or the Jameis show, and then the fact that he would carve us up. Oh, wow. Good job, Kurella. Go ahead, Topher.
It's fun because I think Jameis lives by Bruce Arians' no risk it, no biscuit, right? He's not afraid to chuck it all over the place. I don't know. I those are some pretty crazy predictions. I enjoy it. I mean, Florida State guy in me loves it, seeing Jameis get a big victory. I don't know if that's necessarily the case. I do know that going to New Orleans on Christmas Day is going to be a bit of a test, especially if the fans are rocking there.
That's the other reason I took the L. The Vikings have ruined many holidays for me. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the Vikings will take the L, but I don't know if it'll be necessarily getting blown out by Jameis Winston, but we'll see how it plays out. It'll be fun to play this back if that happens, right, Dave?
Yep, 100%.
Absolutely. If that plays out and we play this back, that same weekend I'm asking Dave for Powerball numbers, no question. So week 17, there's always the fun question of does it matter? At the Lions, always tricky. Yet the Vikings have had a habit of pulling it out lately. I think they do again. They go 10-6 for me.
Brian, this is the scariest game on the schedule because it's 100% what you've said this whole day, and that is depending on the situation. If the Lions are any good at all and Patricia is still thinking playing for his life, this game is frightening. But I have to believe the Vikings are still somewhat in the playoff hunt. They have to win this game. They pull it off. That's the W.
All right. So I've got 10-6. Dave, did you add yours up? What do you got?
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9-7.
All right, Toph, give your Vikes at Lions season closing prediction,
Vikes
and then we'll get to our
Lions.
guest that's joined us.
Yes, Vikes at Lions at the week 17. I think the Vikings are going to come with a victory in this one, and so that will put them at 10-6 for me.
All right, so we go to an avid Packer fan, which is something we don't normally do on this show, to talk football. I love Packer fans, but usually not from September to January. I like them as people. I don't like them as football fans, but I love this guy. Coach DuFrane, welcome, sir. Good to see you.
What's going on, guys? How you doing?
Oh, just taking some week-to-week football predictions. Now, everybody gave the Vikes at least 10 wins. So as a Packer fan, are you chuckling? Or did you give them 9, Dave? Okay, I stopped paying attention to Dave years ago. So 10, 10, and 9. Coach, are you chuckling at that mere concept, or what do you think?
No, I think they can get 10 wins. I agree with you. I'm not going to be that negative Packers fan that brings you guys down.
All right, that's fair. In that case, you can come back any week you want. So I'm going to let you predict your own team. We'll chime in here and there. Everybody in the area is looking at week one because everybody in the area is involved. If you're a Viking fan or Packer fan, you don't have to wait very long. What do you got week one at the bank?
I got the Packers week one at the bank. Of course I do. I mean, I just think they're too good of a team, and I think that free agency is going to help them out. I think the draft was purposeful, and I think free agency is going to help them out a whole bunch. And I'm going to roll with my guys.
All right, that might sound like bragging, but Dave, let's go ahead and just let the cat out of the bag for him. We all have that. Even the avid Vikings fans go, "Yep, that's an L."
Yeah, this one is a bad matchup for a young Viking secondary. I think that this is the week Aaron goes crazy. He's been dissed by the organization, and with those kids in the secondary, I think this is a Green Bay win.
That's what we all had in that one. Exactly the same situation.
All right, so week two, you come home at 1-0. Clete Blakeman might not be around to get you past the Lions at home this year like he was last year, but it's a home opener against a Detroit team that, stop me if you've heard this one, they won't be terrible, but I don't think they'll be very good. I got to have you at 2-0. What do you have?
Agreed. 2-0. When I was looking at it, when you told me to go over this, I think just Packers are a much better team than Detroit. Unfortunately, I'm a huge fan of their head coach, but
that's because you look like him. You are their head coach.
I'm a huge fan. Matt Patricia's awesome, but I got to go with the Packers again. I can't go against them.
All right, well, let's see at some point if you do, because if I'm picking, even if I was a Packer fan, I look at week 3 in New Orleans, and I got to think with Drew Brees still clicking, that's the toughest of your first 4.
That's my exact notes are going down in a shootout for that one, just because I think this is Drew Brees' kind of swan song, and he's going to want to go off and beat Aaron Rodgers. He's going to want to have a big game against the big guys.
All right, so I'm going to pass the torch to Dave because Dave, just before you popped in, gave rather jarring Saints predictions. I don't know that you had it happening this early, Dave,
No.
but go ahead and tell Coach what's in store for New Orleans in your crystal ball.
Well, I think that New Orleans, when they play the Vikings, are going to roll into Minneapolis, and Jameis is going to tear the roof off the building. Or we're going to roll to New Orleans, and Jameis is going to light the Vikings up. But I don't think Jameis is playing yet. Here's the thing. I like Green Bay's defensive matchup against that offense of New Orleans. They have enough secondary. It might be a shootout, but it's one that the Packers can go down to New Orleans and win. I might actually have them with the surprise W on that one.
I can see it. I mean, I'm the Packers fan. I'm not going to disagree with it.
I just want to see a Packer fan predict a Packer loss because I said earlier they have trouble admitting they lost games they're already played. I want to see if they can predict losses that might actually happen. All right, I can't see one here. Atlanta's always good, never great. Home to Atlanta follows the Saints. How do you not win that game?
You win it no matter what. I'm agreeing there. I think that's a big win for the Packers. I mean, you got back-to-back primetime games there too, and coming off of a loss from New Orleans, in my opinion, that's a gonna be win for them.
So you get a bye going into Tampa Bay. Is that enough? I'm tired of hearing about the Bucs. Again, I love Brady, I love Gronk, but I'm on Tampa Bay overload already. But I can't see the Battle of the Bays going green. That stadium, if anybody's allowed to be in it, yes, your fan base travels super well. But Tom Brady and that ship in Raymond James Stadium, Aaron Rodgers is good. I don't think he can be good enough to overcome the rest that day.
And Tom Brady's good, Gronk is good, but Mike Evans is even better. So my thoughts
I'd say
away
Chris
are
Godwin's even better.
Chris Godwin's even better. So the Packers have a good secondary, like you guys already said, but I don't think they got enough to stop that. I had them going down there as well.
All right, I'm doing a lot of the talking here, but I will continue. At Houston, that organization is basically the offseason punchline because DeAndre Hopkins basically got traded straight up for Eddie Lee, and we love Eddie Lee. But what do you got for Green Bay going into Houston? I can't see Aaron Rodgers losing this game.
Nope, another bounce back. I love J.J. Watt, and I always want to see J.J. Watt do well. He's a Wisconsin guy too, but it's just I don't think they got enough firepower, and that trade, you're right. I love Eddie Lee too, but I don't know if I'd trade him for DeAndre Hopkins, man.
Yeah, that's a game for me. That's the of the games for Green Bay this year. That's the easiest one because everything Green Bay does well, Houston doesn't. They just aren't going to be able to get William Fuller open against that secondary. Besides Tunsil, their offensive line is okay, and so Green Bay is going to put pressure on Watson. Yeah, that's the easy win in my opinion in the Packers schedule.
All right, that's one of them. I'm coming to another one later because you still have Jacksonville at home. That's your easiest win, just foreshadowing. So I want to go back to Dave, though, because Dave, again, was the jarring content today. He's got the Vikes off their bye, going to Lambeau and winning. Topher and I went to history and went, the Vikes at Lambeau, no thank you. What do you got?
I said they were going to split. I figured, and what I said right away at the beginning when I was looking at the schedule, I figured they'd come out first game. Emotions were high, like Dave said, with Rodgers being upset about how he was treated and everything. But then Dalvin Cook's going to take over in this if he's healthy. If he's healthy, he'll run him over, and that's still the Packers' problem. I think is if he can stay healthy, it's a split. So the two they'll split this year.
Yeah, I think
All right.
I think bye helps them so much at that point. I think if the game before the bye, I think they play Atlanta. Is that right, Brian? For the Vikings,
which you've got them losing.
Right. So I think they're going to double down in that bye week, and their kids are going to realize that Julio Jones doesn't play for Green Bay. Yeah, they've got a good wide receiver, but he's not HOF at this point. And I think this is the game that their secondary is going to realize that we can actually play at this level.
All right. So the following week is at San Francisco. And Aaron Rodgers hasn't played well in California before. We all know where your season ended last season. But I'm not even concerned about any of that. I'm concerned about, regardless of what happens against the Vikes on the 1st of November, that San Francisco game is on the 5th of November. That's a terrible short week. I think that cost you big time.
Yeah, I ran over is what it says on my notes again. It happens in the playoffs. Rodgers doesn't play well there. I think they're just going to get overtaken by the run game. They're going to get beat up, and I think you're going to see them slip to 4-4 at this point in the season, and a whole lot of panic will start coming into play with the Packers.
All right, so I saw CSS versus presentation last year. Obviously, that was a good win. Your first couple wins were exciting. One of them was very easy. Speaking of easy wins, Dave already proclaimed his. I don't know if Topher has one too. But my easy win for the Packers is on the 15th of November. Jacksonville comes to town with nothing to offer that scares you, in my opinion.
Yep, agreed. I think enough said. I think you guys have covered the bases on that one.
All right, so take me through the 22nd because my panel here hates Phillip Rivers. I don't hate him, but his prime is gone. Can he give you any fits in Indianapolis, fans or not?
No, I think the Packers win that game too. Phillip Rivers is there to help develop whatever they're trying to get for the future. If they can get a year or two out of him, I think that's going to be it for him. But I like Phillip Rivers, but I'm a defensive guy, so I like that attitude. I like that trash talking. I like the in-the-face stuff. So I'd love to see it be a great game, but I don't think it can be.
See, I agree with him, but guys, I thought he was going to go the other way and say I like Phillip Rivers because I'm a defensive guy. I like the ability to get turnovers. Phillip Rivers creates a lot of those for opposing defenses.
Hey, see, Brian, I like Phillip Rivers. I just think he's cooked.
All right, that's fair. Topher, go ahead and offer your love for Phillip Rivers.
Yeah, Phillip Rivers is garbage. He's been garbage since he was at NC State. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Yeah, so if you haven't noticed, Topher will not be selected to enshrine Phillip Rivers into Canton anytime soon.
Topher, I love the honesty, man.
All right, so I got to ask your perspective on the 29th of November because for me, the Packers hosting the Bears is a good team hosting a not very good team, and I leave it at that. But Green Bay fans, they salivate over that Bears rivalry. As a Viking fan, I get it because it's the division, but I don't get it because there's so many mismatches. Take me through the value of a Bears game.
I mean, it's the history of it all. And me and my son have been working through the Legacy series that the Packers app has on the Amazon Fire Stick. I mean, quarantine, we got some time. But you talk about George Halas promoting those games in the early days and wanting to play the Packers because of the travel, the short distance. But like you said earlier, the fans travel and they go. There's just something cool about it. There's just something special. I mean, the Packers-Bears game hold a little more clout in our house too because my wife's a Bears fan. So don't know how that ended up, but yeah, I know.
I was going to say, dude, is it not only is it a house divided, but is the watching venue divided? Are you guys in the same room?
We watch it together. She allows me to watch it with her, but just know I'm a little more cranked up to talk trash if I'm around her during that game.
Wow, I kind of want to be a mouse in the corner now. I don't care about Bears-Packer games very much because I want them both to lose, but suddenly I want to be at the DuFrane household. All right, Week 11, the Eagles come to Lambeau again. They did it last year and got a strange victory, but they got it. I don't necessarily believe in revenge that late in the season, especially when Philadelphia amounted to almost nothing. But what do you got there?
I mean, where's Carson Wentz at? Like,
right.
there's all the talk on Twitter right now. Is he going somewhere else? Is he going to be playing? Is he going to be healthy? I think if he's healthy and he's playing, the Packers lose. But the odds have shown he's not going to be healthy and he's not going to be playing. So
right.
I'm rolling with the Packers still.
I think I even tried to give Carson a better chance. I think I misspoke and called it Week 11. It's actually Week 13. I don't think you're going to see Carson Wentz anywhere near a field upright come Week 13.
You know, the other thing that the Eagles struggle with is coverage. Last year, they were as bad a coverage football team as you've seen. And as a defensive coach, I mean, you just have to wince when you have that. You have pretty good defensive linemen.
See what he did there? Philadelphia is a tale of Wentz and Wentz. I like it.
As a defensive coach, you just have to watch that defensive line and say, I could work with them, but feel free to spend $1 in the secondary.
Help those D linemen out, man. I'm a D lineman at heart. You guys know that. That's not changing anytime soon.
All right, so at Detroit follows that. And that's another one where in the division, Viking fans are going, can they both lose? But for some reason, Ford Field has been a house of horrors for the Packers. Does it continue? It's inexplicable. You love their coach, but what happens?
I actually had that's the Packers. Oops. They just went on a good run. They went on a 4-game tear there. Now they're going to drop to Detroit. And I think that's more so my secret love for Matt Patricia coming through there. But I think they can drop that one in Detroit.
You need to grow a quarantine beard a little longer, and then we'll get you a pencil. And I swear, it's done. Mike DuFrane is Matt Patricia. All right, Carolina at home. I have been very public about Teddy Bridgewater fan. Yes. Teddy Bridgewater believer? Not quite. I will root for him like crazy this day. Can't see him getting it done, though.
Nope, I agree. I think I love Teddy Bridgewater, too. Like I said, I'm a Packers fan, but I'm a football fan first, and I'm glad that I think he's going to have a good shot there. But year one, figuring everything out with everything that's new, I think the Packers pull that one out. And it's in Green Bay late in the year, too.
This one is funny for me because their coach is Rule's a hardcore coach. He's got a quarterback that doesn't make mistakes. He's got a running back that's all world. It might be awful. I think this is sneakier than you guys are giving it credit for. I think that Carolina might even come up and bite Green Bay. If the Packers beat the Lions, then I think Carolina does come up and bite Green Bay.
But of course you do, because if Dave Cook could hyphenate his name, it would be Dave Cook Bridgewater. Go ahead, Topher.
Yeah, well, I agree with what was being talked about. Going to Lambeau Field in December, I think, is going to be difficult for the Carolina Panthers and, Teddy Bridgewater as well, just slowing them down a little bit on that natural turf. The Lambeau is going to be rocking at that point, and I think that's going to be a big difference in that game as well.
All right, so we go to the Titans next at Lambeau. Does it slow them down because it's December weather and they don't have that exactly in Tennessee? But you want to run the ball in the winter. That's all Tennessee really does. Does it make the game trickier?
No, it's another one I have ran over written next to it. And with the notes when I was getting ready for this, I think Derrick Henry is going to keep rolling. He's big, he's physical, and he's with the right group of people to keep doing what he's doing. I like the Titans. It's Vrabel. It's another Patriots, another Patricia, Bill Belichick guy. So
right, Mike. I have to ask you a question. Are you sure you're a Packer fan? Because right now you're being way too humble to qualify.
I am. I'm just realistic. I said that right away. I'm realistic.
See, I never thought those were synonymous. I stand corrected today. It's good to talk to you. Then the close is in Chicago. If it matters to either team, could be Mammoth. If it matters to one, it would likely be – I don't even know who it would likely be, because if it matters to one, it might be the Bears scrambling to be a wild card team. but the Packers have owned Soldier Field. That's got to continue, right?
Yep. My wife's gonna be mad, but I'm rolling. It's the Packers again, no doubt in my mind at all.
All right, so add them up. What do you got for a Packers record?
10-6.
Wow. So in my world, that would mean 10-6 and 10-6, but I would have the Packers winning the division because I have them sweeping the Vikings.
So, see, I like your prediction better than mine, but I think 10-6 is where they're at right now.
So I've got them at 12-4, and I've only got them losing to the teams that on paper are maybe better than they are. That's New Orleans, San Fran, and you look at that. There's a couple other games that are maybe losses. I think the oops at Detroit is possible too, and I think the San Francisco game is a loss. That's my 4.
I think that the last 4 of their season is going to be. I could see them winning all of them. I could see them losing all of them. If they got smoked by Detroit and the Daubers are down, and then Teddy does what I think they can probably do because they don't rely on trickery. If it's winter, they're just going to give you a heavy dose of Christian McCaffrey. Tennessee is the same story, and the Bears, if they have something to play for, I mean. Green Bay could win 11 games, but they could also just take the gas pipe in those last 4.
See, and I go the other way. I look at the Packers and the Vikings, and I love December for both of them. Because if you're Green Bay, if you can somehow figure out how to get rid of your problems in Detroit, you're at home a ton in December, which is great for that team. And if you're the Vikings, you're in Tampa, which you're probably not going to win, but it's going to be warm. And then outside of in Tampa, you're indoors. You're traveling, but you're at Detroit and you're at New Orleans. You're going to be fine. December weather, at least working against either of the 2 local teams, shouldn't.
Yeah, and the way I saw it was, too, there's 3 other games. I could see the Tampa game going to the Packers, too. They're good. The Packers secondary is good enough that they could keep up and keep them in a game, more of a shootout-style game. Obviously, the second Detroit game, I could see going the other way. And then the Tennessee game, just because December, Green Bay, primetime Sunday night game, I could see that going the other way too. So to me, it's easily 13-3 as it is 10-6. Like you could be somewhere either way.
Yep. And I think both teams' fan bases are like that. It's just the difference of expectation. It's 13-3 could easily be 10-6, where for the Vikings, it's 10-6 could easily go to 7-9.
Hey, tell you what. If Kirk Cousins gets hit, 10-6 could go to 3 and whatever.
Well, Dave,
brutal.
Dave, I want you to expand on that because you texted me yesterday what I thought was a crazy. I thought it was a crazy, stupid idea. I thought it was a waste of money. But you're on board because of the insurance policy that he would be, albeit an expensive one. Tell the masses who you thought could be a backup for Kirk Cousins.
I was thinking back to 1998 and how we were getting ready to roll with Brad Johnson, and we were all kinds of going, okay. And they signed the last free agent quarterback that was sitting out there, Randall Cunningham, and look what happened. I think the Vikings should consider going after one Cameron Newton, and he would be great in that offense. He would be able to do the RPO and the zone runs. He's the guy that'll take the locker room. Kirk kind of struggles with the locker room. People follow Cam. I think it's worth at least exploring on a 1-year deal or a 2-year deal.
See, I don't think that any of what you just said is wrong, except for the worth exploring part, because you've got a seemingly skittish quarterback now looking over his shoulder all the time because the other option is a good one. The other option is Sean Mannion currently. Give me Zach Edwards first. And there is no looking over the shoulder, to be honest with you. Plus, if you sign Newton, it's probably 10 to 15 million. Either way, you've got a really expensive clipboard holder when you've got other positions of need that you didn't address.
Agreed.
How much money are you spending on a guy who you're saying is going to be the second guy too? To me, that's scary.
Yep.
On how much
the right price.
And on how much you spent on the first guy too,
That
right. That's what I mean. Do you want 15 million? Topher, go ahead. Do you want 15 million holding the clipboard or 27?
Right. Yeah. And I think that what Brian hit on a little bit, it goes to it's a detriment to Kirk Cousins, the fragility of his ego and having to look over and see Cam Newton looking over. Maybe Cam Newton's a better starter right now than Kirk Cousins. I think maybe that would be an idea to think about, but I don't think that's going to happen with as much as they invested in Kirk Cousins. I don't think the Vikings front office.
Right. What that basically says is if Cam Newton would have been available before they extended Kirk Cousins, maybe you're having a different conversation. Chronologically, that didn't work out that way.
I can't believe Kirk Cousins, that Cam Newton is still available. Just
if you really want to talk about who should be the backup, why don't we cater to our guest, CSS coach Mike DuFrane? I forgot to ask you this with the schedule breakdown. What week does Jordan Love take over?
Oh, come on now. I'm one of the faithfuls, man. You can't put that on me. I'm not going there. I don't want that to happen anytime soon.
But I want your analysis of it because it shocked the masses, the national media. For us, it didn't because it's time to look at the heir apparent at some point. But this was not unlike Rodgers, that a high-priced or a looked at, highly regarded talent slid to a already good team. So they took the chance.
Watch the draft video, Brian. We both went, "Oh, Patrick, what?"
Well,
we thought they were taking Queen for sure.
Right, but we also said publicly the morning prior that maybe they go to the heir apparent, and you said if they do, it would be Jordan Love. Well, that's what happened. Now, obviously, they didn't address Aaron Rodgers' window. They didn't get him another weapon. They got him a reason to – I can't even say that with a straight face. They didn't give him a reason to look over his shoulder because he's too proven. But they gave him a reason to get a chip on his shoulder.
Agreed. And I actually, the morning of the draft, I was talking to one of my buddies, and I said the same thing. Jordan Love's name came out of my mouth right away, and he thought I was nuts. But I think the guy is a good pick. I think if he can sit for a couple of years behind Rodgers and learn and hold the clipboard and have those conversations with him like Rodgers had with Favre, I think it's a great idea. I think it's a fantastic idea. And maybe you guys will get thrown a bone a couple of years down the road and have somebody like Rodgers again.
Right. Rodgers at 40, and then Dave will have him backed up by Cam Newton as well.
What's the sad thing is the percentage of that happening is not zero. It might even be double figures.
They released the article on ESPN that Rodgers would possibly go to the Bears, and I think my entire set of in-laws lost their minds. They were really excited. So,
well, and there's a theory of look to the heir apparent because he's not going to play forever. But I don't think there's a theory that his level of play is sliding. He's made more pedestrian guys look good probably in the last 2 to 3 years than the previous 5. He's sliding because he's aging, but his ability has had to be better because his supporting cast, all due respect, it's like Dave's Marshall East theory. Green Bay has the best player between the Packers and the Vikings. The Packers usually don't have the next 7 or 8. The Vikings do. But your number one is a Band-Aid for so many areas that aren't very good.
Well, and I mean, just look at it from a standpoint of how many Packers quarterbacks have there been over the years? Like since 1992, we've had 2 dudes, and they've done a pretty darn good job of it. And I think that's
I miss Brett Hundley. I'm just saying.
Oh, I don't at all. But but I mean, you look at it; it's a testament to the organization and how they're doing things. And I think they're sticking to let's find somebody, let's develop them, and let's have him be our guy and be able to have him understand what the program and what the culture in Green Bay is all about. I think that's extremely important to why they are who they are.
It still surprised me. We saw a thing on Twitter here a couple weeks ago that in Aaron Rodgers' career, he has thrown a touchdown to exactly 1 first-round draft pick.
And the Packers didn't pick him. Yeah.
And the Packers didn't even pick him. So they haven't really wrapped him around. They haven't wrapped talent around him either.
No, they haven't. And I'll agree. The no receivers anywhere in the sight of a top style pick is a little frustrating. But I mean, obviously, like I said, the culture there, and there's a program, and they have an understanding of they want Packers guys, and I think they're doing what's right for the Packers in the end. I think that tight end out of Cincinnati is going to be a fantastic football player.
Well, you know what they're going to do.
A good football player.
You know what's going to happen just to pad that stat, Dave, is they're going to run Philly special on the goal line. And Rodgers is going to throw a touchdown pass to Jordan Love just to say, I've done it twice.
That could be – I don't have as much faith in the Cincy guy as I do in the Texas A&M guy from last year all of a sudden figuring it out.
Yeah, true. I agree there too. But I think their first 3 picks, the running back, the running back, Love, and the tight. I think they're good. I think they're good football players. I think.
Dylan's going to be great in the winter. I mean, one cut.
A big dude, man. I'm not against somebody running the football either. You know, defensive guy, keep me off the field a little bit. Like, I'm all for it.
Kamal
I want
Martin's
to talk
gonna
about
be
that a
nice
little bit
too,
if we
by the way.
can. Oh, I let Dave have the leash of the draft. I'll get you another 20 minutes, then I'll talk again. Go
Kamal
ahead.
Martin's going to be good, Mike. Kamal Martin's going to be good in the middle of that defense.
Yes, he is.
Well, he's going to have to be because Blake Martinez isn't there anymore. I want to
Yeah.
go a different direction. I want to localize for the last few minutes. COVID is here. COVID is why we do the show this way. What is it like preparing for a college football season with so many unknowns right now? What are you guys doing, not to pass the time, but to Belichick / do your job under these circumstances?
Really, I think during spring ball, we did a fantastic job of keeping the guys moving forward. I tried to go through the defense on Zoom, which is, let me tell you, that's the most awkward experience I've had in my entire life, was trying to teach and coach in Zoom. And so much to me of coaching and teaching is the feeling and the vibe of the room. But I thought our guys did a fantastic job. I set up assignments for them on Google Docs and had them grading themselves on film from last year. I mean, really right now, it's just us focusing on me. I'm cleaning the playbook up, making it look better. I'm going to have the prettiest playbook I think I've ever had. This is the most time I've had to spend on it. But really just trying to move forward in recruiting, finish up last year's class, get names for the next year's class, just keep working it and doing what we can to stay as normal as we can. I think that's kind of been the vibe and what we've tried to do.
Dave, I know you're chomping at the bit. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna ask him about incorporating. We had some young players last year in the defense, and now bringing in freshmen. And how is this break in time going to help them get more physically ready for college football, or is the amount of time that they're missing with you guys, working out with you guys, is that going to make a bigger difference?
I think there's going to be benefits, and I think obviously not having them in the weight room with us is always a concern for us. But our guys have done a fantastic job. Coach Heff set up a kind of an accountability system for everybody to make sure we're working out and getting things done. And I've had great response through the Zoom meetings and guys FaceTiming with me and talking to me and working with me still. So obviously, like I said, it's terrible not being with them, and I always feel like me being with them is going to be able to help them more. But at the same token, the response we've gotten from them has been so fantastic that it's hard not to be excited about it too.
You lost a couple of big knockers in there. You got guys who are ready.
Whoa, just because it's YouTube, you can't go saying that.
Soderberg and Cal Germain, those are some pretty big Halloran. Those are some pretty big shoes to fill. You guys think they've got some guys who are ready to go?
I do. I think we have a couple guys coming in that are going to help a lot. I also think Chase Kleppe and Jake Kukowski are going to take over right where they left off. I mean, I still have Dan Voxland too, and he's the rock of it all, man. That guy gets everybody lined up right, and he's going to be a doctor, so I hope he's the smartest guy we have out on the field. But the guys I have coming back are fantastic too, and I think I have some real good playmakers sitting there, and I think the guys we have coming in are going to be pretty good too.
Good.
Yeah. And you mentioned guys coming in, and earlier you talked a little bit about it as well, but recruiting in this COVID-19 world where you can't go, you're not sitting in anybody's living room. You're not, shaking hands and working with players specifically. What's that like right now and trying to make the most of that situation?
FaceTime, lots of FaceTime. Like I've used FaceTime probably more than I've ever used it in my life. But I think also too is, it's nice because guys are home a lot more. So getting in touch with kids is a lot easier. You know where they're going to be. They're not out running around and missing text messages from you. So that's a good part for us too. But recruiting it's different. Obviously, that to me, being a coach and that one-on-one interaction with kids and getting to know them and getting to know their families is so important. And I obviously miss that a whole bunch right now. But trying to make the best of it, using FaceTime, and we're lucky that this happened in the era that it happened in, is we have the ability to do stuff like this.
Yeah.
Right. Technology has been wonderful. You mentioned in your answer just then, they're not out running around. What about the players you've already got? What kind of workouts are you telling them to do? Granted, for you, it's not totally different because this would be the off season anyway, but there's not access to gyms. There's not as much access to facilities. We had high school coaches say, well, do it old school. You've got equipment in your garage, work out. What are you telling your kids to do?
We have, obviously, if they have the equipment to do the workouts that we develop and we put out there for them, We have them do those. Not everybody even has the workout equipment in their basement, in their garage. So what we're doing is we have Coach Heff has done an awesome job putting out alternative things, body weight things, just different circuits they can do. He's researched it, got on it. We're currently going through the off-season program right now because they just finished finals. So the summer program we're working through right now and kind of deciding, all right, here's option A, you can go to the gym. Option B, you can't go to the gym. Option C, all right, let's figure out what you got in your backyard and how you use that kind of stuff. I mean, I found myself walking around the backyard and seeing what I had back there just to see, all right, what do I have back here? And maybe somebody else will have that too. How can we work this in? So it's just being creative and finding different ways to use what you have.
We talked about the NFL schedule release. Dave and I got your schedule a long time ago. First thing I looked at was it changed because the conference has changed. We could talk about that, but I want to talk about playing Northwestern twice now. You don't have to motivate anybody except just say that.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what we said too. Hey, we got Northwestern twice, and it went unspoken. Everybody kind of understood what it meant, and I think that'll be a cool little rivalry that we'll have. Obviously, I'll be pretty darn vanilla the first time around. Second time around, we'll probably unleash a little bit more on them, but I think it's going to be pretty cool. I think the fact that the history between the two schools and the rivalry that they've had and that they've developed, I think that's going to be pretty neat. And I think the second game will be a little bit more amped up if that's even possible for these two schools. So
yeah, that rivalry with the colleges even, goes beyond the football team. The volleyball team, the baseball teams are all going to be in the
Hey, don't forget the basketball team. I can't stand those guys.
Yeah, I mean that's the truth across the athletic department.
Yes. Oh yeah. I think that's gonna, like I said, I think it's gonna generate interest across the board for people being at the game, and it's just, I mean, there's just something about it, and it's that for me to try to put it into words, I think I can't do it justice. It's cool. It's fun.
Topher asked about recruiting. I want to piggyback off that a little bit because you are kind of able to utilize your alumni more than usual. I have seen more Saints by the Second videos on Twitter. How are those helping? I think those are fun for the alumni to do, first of all. I'm waiting for Mike LaValle and Josh Miron's turn, FYI.
That's Coach Heff and Coach Erskine. They're the ones that are spearheading that. I think it's great. I think it gives and I have a lot of recruits that obviously when we first started doing them, I said, hey, check this out on Twitter. But they get a vibe for what it was like, and they get to hear from guys that were actually here. Like, I can explain it 1,000 different ways, but to hear somebody like Matt Johnson, who coached in the program, played for the program, was one of the original guys, explain to them what it's like here, I think that's completely invaluable. And Coach Heff starting that was awesome. I think it's been great for us, and a lot of guys like it.
Yeah, I think one of the coolest things is being able to point then to alum who are working in their field, who are passionate about how they got where they are. And then, of course, having Toro do his right away too. Jeff Terjeski is a buddy of mine. It was fun to watch him kick it all off and all the things he's done with his life.
The first recruit, man. You can't ever forget that about Toro. But yeah, it's cool because it shows the diversity of things that our guys are into. We've had coaches, we've had doctors, we've had admissions counselors, we've had, I mean, you name it, they've been across the board. It's pretty cool to see all the different things our guys are doing.
Well, you talked about Dan Voxlin's going to be a doctor. I'm glad you told me that because I can tell you as the play-by-play guy, any play that he makes this upcoming season, that's going to come out.
Dr. Vox.
Fumble recovery, the doctor is in. He's on the ball, that kind of thing.
What a surgical play in the back.
Exactly. Such precision by Voxlin on the tackle, no question. So let me ask the D guy the obvious question about the offense. You're replacing an all-world quarterback. You've got a new offensive coordinator. More pressure on you to be that much better defensively as a result?
No, it's still a team game, and our offense, I think, is going to be what our offense is. And to me, I don't think I can focus on what the offense is doing. I just have to get our guys to focus on us, focus on our goals, focus on our jobs, and I think that's the most important thing. And if you let stuff like that start to happen, there's dissension, there's people that are upset with the other side, and no matter what the offense is doing, they got our back, and the same thing, no matter what we're doing, the offense has our back. And I think I think as a program, Coach Heffernan, he promotes that so much that he doesn't want that separation. And I think, and to me, I don't want them even thinking about what the offense is doing. We got so much stuff going on our end. we'll figure
I
it out.
love that theory. I love that
Yeah.
theory. Since the topic is the College of St. Scholastica, I'm going to let the two alums have the last two questions. Guys, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to make a comment more than the question, and just how fortunate we are as a program and as an athletic program to have Hef back in charge, and to see the type of leader that Coach Heffernan is. How is it like to work with a guy who isn't just a great leader, but he's the guy that has the connection to the first, to Toro, to the first recruit?
That's what makes this so special. I think that's what makes Saints by the Second what it is. Is you see when Coach Heff puts his tweet out and he retweets the video itself, he always has comments, and it's not just standard stock things. It's things that from his personal relationship with those guys and how proud he is of seeing what they've done and what they've accomplished, and knowing that you got somebody there that's leading your program and he's got your back, and the kids that play for him should understand, man, he's not just your coach for 4 years. He's got you for the rest of your life, and he's looking out for you, and he actually cares about what's happening to you.
Yeah, love the guy.
Yeah.
Right, and I just, obviously the way the program's been built it's a lot of fun to watch as an alum, and to see a program that was literally non-existent while I was in school there become a program. And
let me stop you right there. Tell Coach about your T-shirt, and then ask your question.
Well, when I was in school there were underground rumblings about possibly adding a football team and stuff. And as a fundraiser, they sold T-shirts that said St. Scholastica football undefeated since 1912, which was pretty fun. So I've still got that floating around, and I like to bust that every now and then. Unfortunately, it didn't last as long once the team actually got on the field, but very quickly became a winning program, and that was fun to see. Can you talk? I guess, at this point, you're less than 4 months away from the scheduled opening day. How do you, getting your players amped up and working with them throughout this offseason, counting down to that day, and trying to keep the focus on that while also maybe thinking about contingencies and what goes through your whole process on that?
To me, it's just focusing on our day-to-day, and what happens. We'll make adjustments when we have to make adjustments. We'll make changes when we have to make changes. But I think the worst thing I can do right now is start playing a what-ifs game with them. I think it's just got to be, what are we doing today to be better? And you'll hear me preach it. You see me on the sideline wave my hand at the top of my head 1,000 times.
I have seen that.
Yeah, it's and what I say is it's enthusiasm, right? It's nothing is so contagious as enthusiasm, is what I tell our guys day by day, every day. And I think if we keep that same approach and we keep that same excitement, whether we play 10 games, whether we play 6 games, whether we get shoved to the spring, you've heard a billion different scenarios, like everything going on right now. But the best thing we can do is just focus on what we're doing today. And if we can do that, we're going to be fine no matter what happens.
That's a great point. I'm glad you gave that explanation, because there were so many times where I was like, man, that D coordinator thinks everything is uncatchable. What does he keep doing this for? All right.
Yeah, that's just my way to say, hey, stay here. We're always here. We're always up.
I just thought you were really supportive of your secondary, that they can't catch anything against you guys. So it's been a topic all show, Coach. Your thoughts on Dave's shirt as we let you go?
I saw it. I logged in. I was going to wait. I was hoping it would come up. Dave, I like it, man. It's
all right.
It's just adding a little bit of flair, I think, to the show here. I stayed pretty vanilla, put on my Saints stuff and hopped on, but I think I like it.
See, I think it's a 3D
safe stuff where.
I think it's a 3D puzzle. I think if Dave stands up, you're supposed to stare at it and see if you can find the shape of an animal in there somewhere.
You put it close to your face and move away and see what pops out at you.
See, there you go.
Nothing says style like Dave Cook.
I like it. I might write that down and remind you of that when I see you again.
That sounds like a T-shirt. I can see DuFrane, Topher, Hef, and I all in T-shirts for opening day of CSS football, and it says nothing says style like Dave Cook. But if we did it in the true Dave Cook fashion, it would be on the back, and the actual T-shirt itself would just be a plain solid color.
Yeah, I'll buy one. You guys get them made. I got one. I'm in. I'll wear it.
I'll tell you what, Coach, I'm buying into you. Anytime you want to do this, we don't know if it'll be radio, YouTube, or something in between, or maybe both. Anytime you want to do this, let us know.
Yeah, you guys just hit me up. I'm more than happy to. I love doing this. It's nice. It's nice to see you guys. I haven't seen you guys in forever. So
that's the truth.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. Have a good rest of your weekend. Happy Mother's Day to your mom. Thank you for joining us on Fishing Opener. We didn't have to fish for good content from you. Good catch. We appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you guys. See you later.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep, bye-bye.
How much fun was that? That was amazing. That was awesome.
Yeah, we got to love the energy Mike brings.
Well, and anybody we can get to talk about your shirt. I think we should have brought every guest that we had in mind for the next couple of months. I don't care what you wear next week. It's going to fail in comparison.
Well, so it sounds like something that we need to do on a YouTube Twitter poll. Do you like the shirt?
I think so. We'll definitely try to get that in there.
Topher has been the most consistent. I think he's worn that shirt for the last 3 shows, some shade of blue close to that. And then
it's not the same shirt, but yes.
Okay. And then my camera cuts off too high. I don't think anybody can really tell what I'm wearing most of the time as long as I'm wearing something. So, Dave, the pressure's on you.
Oh, I'm planning the wardrobe already. It's in the back of the mind already.
That sounds perfect. All right, guys. Rest of the weekend. Any Mother's Day shout-outs? Any fishing opener? Watch your own bobber? Final thoughts? Good show today. It was fun.
It was a fun show. Yeah, it's hopefully while Dad's walking around Arizona staring at the screen, he is including Mom in some of the conversations. But it's an interesting Mother's Day. I'm trying to do something unique as a Mother's Day gift this year. So I can't bring it out now because she might watch this, later today once Toph puts it up.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, especially, of course, my mom, who enjoys the program as well when she's able to catch it, and enjoy it. And to all the fishermen out there, make room because I'll be there in about an hour.
Your best catch was Kelly. You're done. You've already
true.
You've already hit your limit. Dave's best catch
true.
is Dana. Topher's best catch is Kelly. My best catch is Jen. We're way over our limit already. It's a different way to look at outkicking your coverage. Can't even respond to that. Happy Mother's Day to my mom, too. I'll try to drop off a case of beer. That's the easiest way that she makes it through this program. We're glad that you guys did, too. Hit like, hit subscribe. Have a good weekend. We'll see you next week. Brian Prudhomme, Dave Cook, Topher Davis. We're the Northland Sports Page. We're done.
See ya.